An historic downtown Bloomington church was targeted for closure. Now the Catholic Diocese is having second thoughts.
I'm pleased that it's not a slam dunk. We're going to close the parish.
The future of Holy Trinity Catholic Church coming up on WGLT's Sound Ideas. Good evening, I'm John Norton. Also on today's show, a lawmaker from McLean County has a role in state budget negotiations and claims the governor isn't being transparent about funding for migrants.
I think we need to know. We just need to know how those things are being spent.
And a cheery welcome home for a basketball team that made it all the way to the state title game.
It felt like the old-fashioned days, where the community comes around the local high school team and everybody joins together.
Those stories follow a Bloomington Normal News update, which is just ahead. This is Sound Ideas on 89.1 WGLT and WGLT.org, part of the NPR network.
Support for WGLT comes from Bloomington Normal Audiology. Hear My Story continues with local patients Ralph and Carol Weisheit.
I was actually going to add that was one of the reasons that you went, was because I kept saying, you're not listening to me.
And she thought it was my hearing, yeah.
See what I got to live with?
Ralph and Carol's full story can be found at bnaudiology.com.
From the campus of Illinois State University in Normal, this is WGLT's news magazine, Sound Ideas. Good evening, I'm John Norton. The Catholic Diocese of Peoria has backed off a proposal to close Holy Trinity Church in Bloomington. WGLT's Charlie Schlenker reports.
As part of a large realignment of parishes and church consolidations across central Illinois, a study team had earlier recommended merging St. Mary's and Holy Trinity parishes in Bloomington and closing the Art Deco Holy Trinity Church building, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. The plan also included merging St. Patrick's of Myrna and St. Mary's of Downs. The Downs and Myrna parish mergers remain in round 3 of the parish models. It recants the intention to merge St. Mary's and Holy Trinity. The draft would assign 2 priests to commonly serve historic St. Patrick of Bloomington and Holy Trinity. The model recommends the pastor discern and develop long-term facilities and funding plan within 2 years for Holy Trinity and St. Pat's. It recommends the 2 parishes coordinate Mass times and ministry. The release of Round 3 relieves several members of Holy Trinity who had submitted a lengthy report to the panels in the hope the proposed closure would be reversed. One of those is Ann Sallin.
I'm pleased that it's not a slam dunk. We're going to close the parish. Our pastor will definitely have to get more information about these recommendations of the long-term facilities and funding plan, but for now I'm actually pleased.
Sallin says a document parishioners put together, including demographic information, by the numbers work on financial sustainability and strength, was a fair assessment. Sallin notes the Round 3 models omit previous references to the alignment of parishes and schools. Holy Trinity and St. Patrick's of Myrna together fund Corpus Christi in Bloomington. St. Mary's of Bloomington funds its schools.
I have heard that a future vision may be to look at all of the schools in the diocese, but I think this is really trying to say you've got 2 churches with lots of facilities. Are you going to keep that, and how are you going to fund it?
Historic preservationist Greg Coos says he thinks the reference to facilities and funding may have more of an impact on historic St. Pat's than on Holy Trinity.
The economic planning is really something that needs to happen at St. Patrick's because it has not kept up with the needs in terms of accessibility.
Coos says religious congregations are generally getting older, including St. Patrick's, and they do need to accommodate them. Coos also acknowledges all older church buildings face ongoing maintenance needs, including Holy Trinity.
Holy Trinity raised $3,300,000 over the past few years for restoration and for accessibility, for the creation of new kitchens in the church basement for parish events. So they've done their due diligence with their pocketbooks.
Holy Trinity was in the process of creating a new parking lot on the north side of the building on the site of the old Elmo Quinn service station when the initial round of models indicated potential closure. Parishioners indicate that work may resume. Parishioner Terry Kelly had also lobbied to keep Holy Trinity open and says he's pleased the recommended model in Bloomington is essentially the status quo.
It would be sad to see any parish close, and there are many parishes throughout the diocese that are closing, and I know many people are sad about that, and it's very hard for those who have lived in those parishes, and served those parishes, and supported those parishes all these years.
Kelly notes the entire process is called Growing Disciples, and the exercise calls on all parishes to be more active and supportive of one another.
Hopefully that will be the byproduct of all this. We need to have a good plan for the future to address what additional needs there might be and, make sure we have adequate funds for that.
Kelly agrees with the model's emphasis on coordinating Mass times and ministry between historic St. Pat's and Holy Trinity. He notes part of Holy Trinity's criticism of the process was that Mass times had been affected in recent years and changed when and where people attend Mass.
Bloomington are almost kind of a unique Catholic community, and we all know each other. And people aren't as territorial about their church maybe as they are in other communities. There's a lot of opportunities to make a Mass. To coordinate that, I think that's an ongoing process. It's always been an issue.
The diocese report also notes there's a long-term shortage of priests, and Kelly says better coordination could help address that.
The hope for everyone is that this reinvigorates us to be better stewards of our Catholic faith, of our parish Holy Trinity, to support it better, to get more active, to get so many of our parishioners who are on the books and who financially support the church, attending in the pews and not just on Sunday.
Kelly says there are lots of programs available, and he hopes this will encourage people to become more active in parish life. Peoria Bishop Louis Tilka will review the findings of the third round of parish models and make final decisions May 19th. I'm Charlie Schlenker.
And I'm John Norton. Tomorrow on Sound Ideas, you'll meet the headliner for WGLT's next Highway 309 live show. It's next week, March 20th, at the Normal Theater. And we're talking about a conversation with Nashville singer-songwriter Chris Matthews on tomorrow's show.
Leaders of a new White House office on gun violence prevention are themselves survivors of gun violence. What they're doing now on the next Morning Edition from NPR News. This is Steve Inskeep. Listen to Morning Edition weekdays from 4 to 9 a.m. on WGLT.
This is Sound Ideas on WGLT. I'm John Norton. A state lawmaker who represents much of rural McLean County is helping to negotiate a new state budget. State Senator Sally Turner says she was appointed to the Senate Republicans' budget negotiation team because of her 24 years of budgeting as the Logan County clerk. Well, Turner says she's opposed to the $800 million in tax increases in the budget. That's mostly from taxes on corporations and gambling. Turner also says she'd like to see the state eliminate health care funding for undocumented immigrations. But Turner tells WGLT's Eric Stock there is plenty in the budget she supports and her constituents need.
Those things consist of education priorities. We want to make sure that child's whole and their well-being and of our children in general. And also, one of the things that we've been lacking that we'd like to see more of, and that's for our disabled community. We've seen cuts in that in the past, and we want to make sure that those get supplemented the way that they need to. That was one of the other big issues. And then also, as we see the need for families, right now people are hurting, especially in the energy area. A lot of people we see are having problems with their bills. In our office, in our district office, we have people that come in often and need our assistance. And where do I go? I need help. I need help with my whether it's with their energy. I can't pay my prescription bills along with my getting my food. We try and navigate and try and send them to the proper agencies. So those agencies that assist with that, we need to make sure they get funded as well.
Does the governor's budget plan, about $52.7 billion, does it substantially address the concerns that you were hearing about in those main priority areas?
Yes, some of those areas, yes. regarding education, and we know that that increase needed to be made. It's been specified in law, and also in higher education. There's some areas, though, in which we can segue into maybe something else that you want to discuss, and that was in regard to what we talked about transparency in the budget presently, the transparency regarding migrant funding, and then what is in the budget as well for supplementing that cause. So that's part of the things that are probably in that budget that we just like to know where they're coming from and what they're supplementing, what programs.
Now, the governor did say in his address that he would ask the General Assembly for about $182 million to cover most of migrant services. The city of Chicago and Cook County would shoulder the rest. So are you suggesting the number is actually higher than that? Or where is the transparency question?
Yeah, absolutely. It is higher than that. What we're seeing is probably $1 billion that has been overall is being asked for to help supplement those issues that come to migrant funding. So it might have been asking for that 182, but in what area and what's the previous amount that you've already used to supplement that? And what is it that you're asking for in addition to the 182? Is it in one specific area? But we know it's going to be billions of dollars to make that happen the way that he's been suggesting.
Where do you believe the funding is showing up in the budget elsewhere to account for this?
Great point. That's exactly what we're asking. Just show us where that is in the budget so that we can also understand what your ideas are and where they're coming from and what areas within the different agencies that you're taking the money from and supplementing it to.
But what evidence do Senate Republicans have to suggest that that is already being done? That it's being couched in other departments within the budget to sort of mask it?
Exactly, Eric. We don't. But as a citizen, and then as myself and the other representatives that are representing the people in our districts, I think we need to know. We just need to know how those things are being spent. You know, when I was a county clerk, that was something that we made sure that we did. We had committee meetings, and we had the agencies come in and tell us, this is what my needs are, this is what I'm spending it on. And then through the finance committee, we approve those things. And I know that's local government, it's a little bit different, but it's the same idea, this representative to the people, and we're responsible to tell them how we're spending their money.
But what makes Senate Republicans believe that that spending is actually the billions of dollars for migrant funding?
Well, and again, we don't know, and it's not just on the migrant funding. There's all kinds of things we want to know, but one of the other things that we want to know is, how much money you're spending on non-citizens, but also how is it that it's continually the executive orders in the way that you're doing it right now? And let's bring that to the legislature and allow them to make some decisions along with you.
Let's say it is $182 million for migrant services. Would that be something that you and Senate Republicans would support?
To be quite honest, I don't know how much this costs at all. I have not been provided with those numbers, so I can't speculate on whether or not those numbers would be correct. So right now, we just know it's a lot of money for folks that aren't here legally. And we have people all the time that are coming in and struggling. We have people from different pockets of, I know, my 44th district, some of the areas, the entire area, the kids have to have meals because none of them can afford it. So our people need to be represented equally.
Is there a certain amount of funding that you would support for services for asylum seekers and those who have been bused here from Texas to Illinois?
I will say this. Absolutely, we have compassion for the people that are here, unbeknownst to them, what it was going to be like. When they came over, I'm sure that they had these expectations that it was okay. I wasn't coming over illegally. Someone was taking me over the border and taking me to a place where I was going to thrive and my family was going to thrive. And that is not what happened to them. And here they are. They need food and they need clothing. And I think that's exactly how we need to help. It's here. It's present. We need to help with that part of it.
As we continue on Sound Ideas with State Senator Sally Turner, a part of the Senate budget negotiation team that is now actively at work reviewing the governor's proposed budget, the governor has proposed permanently eliminating the grocery tax. Now, the public seems to love this. Some communities have said that this will have a negative impact on their funding. What do you make of it?
Yeah, we've had been approached by the Illinois Municipal League, which that's of course represents all the cities in our areas, the municipalities. And our understanding is that if that's eliminated, then that indeed hurts those cities and the things that they're doing with that present tax. And one of the things is that we have a bill in order to make some changes with that. So that's one area. But in regard to that whole idea about the grocery tax, one of the things is that those municipalities have been some of the money that they generally receive from the state is being taken from them right now, and they just want to be resupplemented with what they are supposed to have. And I think if that was even, that might be a different story, but it's not, and so they are not made whole.
The last several state budgets have been approved with less rancor than we've seen in years past, particularly under J.B. Pritzker's predecessor, Bruce Rauner. Do you anticipate that will be the case this year?
No. And one thing I will say is that I believe last year our Republican and Democrat Senate, when we got together, they did a good job at us having discussions together. And that was probably the first time I've heard that it's happened in a while. And I appreciate them allowing us to take part in it. Now, did we get everything that we would like to? No. Did we get some of the things? Maybe they listened to some of our issues. Sure. And I believe that our Senate, we get along very well. We're able to have good discussions with each other, and I appreciate that.
That was State Senator Sally Turner speaking with WGLT's Eric Stock. Regarding Turner's claims of a lack of transparency on migrant funding, a spokesperson for Governor J.B. Pritzker says Senate Republicans are following Donald Trump's orders and, quote, blowing their racist dog whistle and conflating different immigrant populations to vilify human beings for their political gain. Stories and conversations around Bloomington, Normal, and McLean County. This is WGLT's Sound Ideas. Hundreds of people gathered at Normal Community High School to welcome back the boys basketball team from the state championships over the weekend. WGLT's Charlie Schlenker reports the team received a fond and enthusiastic welcome from fans and family after taking second place in Class 4A against Homewood Flossmoor.
Now, would Coach Witzig and members of Normal Community step forward to receive your Class 4A second place trophy.
We are taught as young people to value winning. That message can obscure the idea that the pursuit of excellence is in itself a victory. The NCHS Ironmen may have lost the championship game, but in the eyes of the community, they are champions. Principal Adam Brozick says it takes courage to put yourself out there knowing there are no guarantees of an outcome, and success takes hard work.
But it takes even more courage to put yourself out there after you've fallen and to get up and try again. It's human nature to look down when we feel like we've lost or we feel sad, but I challenge you to look up and take in what's around you.
Brozick echoes the oft-repeated motto, "We are stronger together." He says the memories the basketball players created in their season will last a lifetime. Head coach Dave Witzig marvels at the sea of orange-draped fans that came out in Champaign to be part of the great thing the team created. He says on the way to Champaign Friday, they drove by a couple grade schools where kids outside held signs of support. They got a police escort out of town, and then another one in Champaign to the stadium.
It felt like the old-fashioned days, where the community comes around the local high school team and everybody joins together.
Principal Brozick says in Champaign, the fans showed that community by staying positive and classy.
Almost every IHSA staff member shared how amazing our fans were.
Coach Witzig says that bonding experience is maybe what the community needs at this particular moment.
The world news is crazy. The election coming up is going to divide us. Maybe we need to put down our phones and turn off the news and come support your local high school team. and support the kids.
Witzig says he was encouraged by how the community came together for the team and hopes it can continue as NCHS students showcase the huge amount of talent and hope in the building through supporting things like the musical and spring sports, so everyone can help each other be their best. Assistant coach Nathan Foster quotes now retired Alabama football coach Nick Saban, who often poses the question, are you an and person or are you a but person? Positive or negative? Foster says there are a lot of and people on the basketball team.
They're good at sports and they're nice to other students in the hallways. They're good at sports and they're positive leaders in our school. They're good at sports and they represent their school, their families, and this community in a positive manner.
Senior player Marcus Russell calls the season an amazing journey. He says he'll miss playing with his teammates, who are amazing on and off the court. He says they didn't give up on each other, even in down moments. And Russell thanks the coaches.
And coaches yelled at us for like small things that we felt like was not a big deal, but it pretty was, so the little things matter. That's what helped us get all these trophies and get us here to this stage today. Now, I'm extremely blessed and thankful for the coaching staff in the backs for pushing me and yelling at me all the time. So it's a blessing to have her kind of guys around me.
Senior Jaheim Weber also thanks the coaches, even though he says they can be annoying at times, especially about what he calls dumb stuff. But
there's a lot of guys in the coaching world in like high school, college that are not very genuine. These guys are some of the most true and genuine coaches I've ever had.
It can be hard for anyone to put a loss at such a stage into perspective after putting your soul into a pursuit for years and years. Yet Weber says he will remember the joyous parts of the final game.
It was a sea of orange, a ton of fans, ton of support from the community. They backed us up so well, and to be able to make a run like that in front of like our hometown is just it's really special for us. And I feel like we built a legacy that'll last on here at the school forever.
As the seniors scatter to graduation, to colleges, and on with their lives, senior player Braylon Roman says it's not the loss, but the journey and building bonds with team members that will matter in the end.
Something that's bigger than basketball, just building a brotherhood, with my teammates. This is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Just being able to compete with, guys that I've played with for years. And, every day those guys have made me better.
Coach Dave Witzig says he told the team in the locker room after the loss the trophy signifies an incredible run and can be a proud moment, as is what happened after a loss to Metamora back on February 3rd. Witzig says it was an inflection point on the season. At such moments, Witzig says it's hard to know how it will turn.
That's one of the great things about high school boys is you just never know when it's going to click. And after that game, it kind of clicked. We talked about it before about how things we needed to clean up, but after that loss in front of a huge crowd, a big Central Illinois game, Metamora had a huge crowd, we had a huge crowd. I think that's when the moment we kind of clicked and we took a step.
For this year's seniors, the sting of the loss will likely fade, and the memories they have will be the ones they want to preserve, their own struggles to achieve, and the appreciation of fans and fellow students. I'm Charlie Schlenker.
And that's Sound Ideas Today, WGLT's news magazine made possible in part by Bloomington Normal Audiology. I'm John Norton. Story help today came from WGLT's Eric Stock and Charlie Schlenker. Ryan Toohey edits the show. This is 89.1 WGLT and WGLT.org, part of the NPR network.